Hello, School Transportation Nation. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Tony Corbett, publisher and president of STN. I've also got Mr. Ryan Gray with me this week, talk about the latest headlines. It's brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing software. We have a great tech tip this week from IC Bus and a green tip from the Propane Education Research Council, also known as PERC. Our special guest today, Tim Farquer. He is the superintendent and curriculum director at Williamsfield Schools in Illinois. He also co-authored an article in our March issue, Ryan. I know repowers, it's a talk. People are looking at options in the energy sector, so lots happening. That March issue is chock full of good stuff. I know we talked about it a lot last week, but man, you can't get enough, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm looking forward to interviewing Tim. He's, like you mentioned, the superintendent out there in Williamsfield Schools in Illinois, West Central Illinois, outside of Peoria. He's also the assistant baseball coach. So it's one of those, picturesque towns in middle America. So it's really interesting, kind of a center for the electrification movement. So we're going to talk to him about his project, too, that he launched several years ago, Bus to Grid, as well as repowers. That'll be a fascinating talk.
Excellent. Well, all right. Before we dive into that conversation, I'm going to hit you with a green tip brought to you by PERC. They want to talk to you about propane. It's energy for everyone. Did you know that school buses fueled by propane can help you reduce emissions in your community while saving you money? Propane school buses have a lower average carbon intensity than electric school buses over their lifetime by more than half, and they emit up to 96% less nitrogen oxide than diesel buses. All of this from fleets with the lowest total cost of ownership. It's no wonder propane is the most widely used alternative fuel in the school bus industry. You guys can learn more at betterourbuses.com. That's betterourbuses.com. All right, guys, we're excited to bring you the top headlines of the week. And Ryan, we've got some really great feel-good stories. We've got a good one from Texas, right? Our friends down in Cypress Fairbanks. I'd say a big picture of Kane Smith, former Transportation Director of the Year for STN. And looks like a good story about kids and making their day. Want to share a little more about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a great article by Taylor Ekbatani, our associate editor, of course, who frequents the podcast. A lot of our listeners will know Taylor well. So, yeah, she learned of a special visit paid to Cy-Fair at the beginning of the year, actually. The backstory of this is Olivia Richardson. She's a little 3-year-old, at least at the time. Last year, I guess, or the last couple of years, she was diagnosed with cancer. So she was on the way to her different doctor's appointments for treatment to kind of get her mind off of the impending doctor's visit. Her parents would count school buses with her as they were driving. And she just grew to love school buses, and it just became this favorite activity for her. Well, as the story relates, her mom used to actually work for Cy-Fair and actually resigned her position when the diagnosis was made that Olivia had cancer. So she reached out to Kane Smith and Transportation to see if they could arrange a visit. It's a really heartwarming story about this little girl's love for the school bus and what the staff at Cy-Fair did for her. Obviously, coming out of Love the Bus month last month in February, really great timing. Just goes to show the heart of student transportation. We talk a lot, Tony, about electric buses, and of course, we're going to talk a lot about it a little bit later. We talk about operations, and we talk about all the challenges and fuel prices and inflation and supply chain. But it's really great to read these stories about the heart of the matter. These folks that do this job day in and day out, they're just good people by and large, and they love kids. And, it's just a heartwarming story. So, I invite all you guys to go over to stnonline.com and check it out.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And I know we got a call out on LinkedIn. Doug Martin over at Transpar Group dropped us a line, tagged us in a post. He had brought to our attention a story about a gentleman named Michael O'Brien in Norman, Oklahoma, that his home was destroyed or decimated by a tornado. And Michael has been a school bus driver for 22 years for Moore Public Schools. And, this was a tragic incident. And he let us know about it and put out the call. And we have a great story to kind of let everybody know about how they can maybe help Michael. There's a GoFundMe page that got put up. But definitely, your house being destroyed by a tornado, that is unfortunate and tragic. And we're so sorry to hear that news. And we really do hope that the community of school transportation professionals can come together and help Michael out. You guys go to the STN website, go read that story. The GoFundMe link is on there. The Moore family definitely could use your help to kind of help rebuild their life. School bus driver in need, guys. Really a great opportunity to kind of pitch in and do a little something for Michael O'Brien and his family. All right, Ryan, I know you sat in recently as well. Cummins Engine had a big press conference last week. They had some announcements. What's happening over at Cummins?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cummins has been very busy lately. I think they have sunk $1.5 billion. I use the word sunk, but they
invested, right?
Invested. $1.5 billion to me would be like,
drop in the bucket.
Right. But they've invested heavily in research, technology, and capital and acquisitions over the past several years, and we've seen, they acquired Meritor. They acquired Siemens, commercial vehicle businesses. So it's really, going after the electrification and not just that, but just, bridging fuels. And they have the agnostic engine that's coming out later this year, the big bore truck anyway, and for school buses probably next year. They're just really going heavy into kind of the next generation of fuels and energy. And, with that, they decided to rebrand their new power business as they go after this Destination Zero strategy. That's, they're calling this Accelera. So acceleration, Accelera. You can kind of see where they're going with this. They're looking to target eliminating 55 million metric tons of GHGs from their products in the field. And they're just rebranding what they're doing. And they found it's time to kind of take that new power business unit to the next level. And with that, they announced a new partnership with Bluebird, where they're going to be accelerating the production of electric buses. They're going to be rolling out about 1,000 over the next 12 to 18 months.
It's a big number.
Exactly.
They're obviously seeing a ramp up in electric vehicle purchasing if they're going there.
Exactly. And, if you're basically, give or take doubling the amount of electric buses that are out on the road right now. And I know there's a lot more in the pipeline, probably more like, 2,000 or 2,500 that we're looking at. But still, that's a significant leap just for one brand. And of course, Cummins works with other OEMs as well. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of what this Accelera brand rebranding is going to mean in terms of operations. Of course, I've asked the folks at Bluebird and at Cummins, at least as of this recording, haven't got any responses yet. But, what does this mean to the end user, to the customers? Certainly, reliability is a big thing with electric school buses. We hear a lot about charging and some anxiety over that. We're in the infancy still of electric school buses, electric vehicles for that matter. So still a lot to be figured out. So it will be really interesting to see what this new rebrand, what this means going forward.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. I agree with you. I'll be curious to see as well with the acquisition of Meritor. I know we've seen at the ACT Expo, which, that conference focuses more on new technologies around alternative energy vehicles, advanced technologies. And we saw Blue Horizon, which was Meritor's drivetrain axle. And I know that some of the OEMs have been, test piloting that technology. And that was almost 2 years ago. We haven't yet seen it commercially available yet in school bus, but I can imagine it's only a matter of time before this becomes an option that's available to our community, to the nation, to start looking at. I mean, this is kind of like what we talk about. Electric vehicles, we have version 1, version 2. Is this going to be version 3 or 4? Like, where do we see this kind of coming into the process? As people are early adopters of electric vehicles, we are still in that early adoption phase, as we mentioned before, with pilots that are onesie, twosies. Some people are upping it. Maybe they're getting 5, 6, maybe 10 electric buses if they can get them built. You know, is the drivetrain axle going to help also maybe supplement the ability of these manufacturers to put more vehicles on the road quicker, because it's kind of almost like a technology diversification. So super interested in seeing the Cummins acquisition of Meritor and seeing where that heads. It definitely poses a lot of questions in my mind on where we see the future.
Exactly. And you know, another thing that's coming out of this too, you know, Cummins is and has been working on hydrogen fuel cells as well as electrolyzers. So, you know, they're really diversifying their business. So I think that's why they wanted to rebrand their new power business unit. You know, we know, obviously, we've read in STN that there's a hydrogen bus being worked on by Pegasus Specialty Vehicles, you know, and a lot of people are like, hydrogen, it's, you know, got a lot of people scratching their heads. And
that's early though. It's early days though, for sure.
It's early days, and but everything's being worked on right now. And it's an exciting time. Cummins, obviously, you know, they have a hydrogen project ongoing with Scania for big trucks. So again, like what you were saying, Tony, is in a matter of time. If we're seeing that now we're starting to get folks looking at hydrogen a little bit closer, at least fuel cells for school bus, you know, maybe not. But again, I think if you had asked people 10 years ago, electric school buses, especially coming out of the hybrid electric kind of debacle from 15 years ago or so, people would be like, no, you know, so, you know, who knows what's going to happen. It's a really exciting time.
Yeah, I had seen the badging on their press release. It was a truck. It said hydrogen powered, right? Like, I don't know if the truck was actually hydrogen powered. It was just a graphic on the press release. But regardless, I spoke to a representative at Cummins, and I just said, hey, is this like, where is this? Like, how far off into the future? And, you know, we were prognosticating, and they were saying, yeah, it's probably a 2035, 2040. And I'm like, all right, like that's a little ways off before we start to see that. And I know Cummins is never going to bring a product to market before it's fully vetted, fully baked. They obviously have a product rollout strategy. We've got their Cummins ISB 6.7 with the new technology going to the gasoline. Then we have also the propane, which the propane industry, our friends at PERC, very excited about the Cummins propane, which will be a bit of a diversification where we've seen Roush Cleantech and we've seen PSI, but now we'll have Cummins as another option. And people love Cummins. It's a very tried and true brand within the school bus market. So not surprising that the market's excited about some additional choices in the space. And we'll see what OEMs offer it. Maybe that's going to be offered by everybody, right? Because a lot of these guys, they have agreements. I'm not sure if they're exclusive, but definitely Bluebird working with Roush and Thomas, as well as IC Bus, I believe, was working with PSI. So we'll see what that looks like in the next couple of years, which is not far off. So that's exciting. And I know Cummins and STN have partnered together. We are actually providing the Cummins experience at STN Expo Indianapolis. Guys, if you have never been to the Cummins World Headquarters in Columbus, Indiana, this is your opportunity. We have coordinated a special tour of their facility. You're going to check out a mid-engine plant that Cummins has there, be able to walk it, see what it's all about, take a look at their headquarters. They have a museum, 104 years old. So they've got a deep heritage and history in this industry of engines, and really kind of soak it up. They're also going to provide a exclusive product overview on the new technology that I just mentioned. I haven't even seen yet, so I assume that's going to be some new stuff. So the STN Expo attendees in Indianapolis Indianapolis are in for a real treat. But we only have 75 seats available, and about a third of those seats have already been reserved. So don't wait, guys. Go on, register for STN Expo Indianapolis. We've got a great lineup of classes. We got the Green Bus Summit. That's June 2nd through the 6th. It's all included for you. You're going to have an amazing experience. The trade show is nearly sold out. We've got lots of OEMs, lots of product solutions, ride and drive at the Green Bus Summit, outdoor experience. We just got a jam-packed schedule of cool things for you guys to soak up and, improve your leadership skills, elevate your transportation department, your business. We really want to help you guys become better professionals and really elevate your game. So please join us, stnexpo.com, lock in that early bird discount, save $100. So really excited for that. But guys, before we kind of get to our interview, want to give you a tech tip from IC Bus. You're looking for ways to improve your on-time performance and reduce operating costs? All IC Bus CE Series school buses now come standard with factory-installed telematics devices, including a 5-year connectivity subscription. Customers gain access to on-command connection, an industry-leading remote diagnostic solution, providing data that is visible and easy to understand and actionable. With OCC, your school district will have visibility to vehicle health and performance data at your fingertips, including EV-specific information like state of charge and estimated range. You guys can learn more about other standard capabilities of IC connected vehicles at icbus.com. That's icbus.com.
Let's welcome to the School Transportation Nation stage, Tim Farquer, Superintendent of Williamsfield Schools in West Central Illinois, Knox County to be exact. Tim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Appreciate it.
So, I was reading up a little bit about Williamsfield. I mean, I mentioned this to you earlier. I think it's a good connection to make. When you think of Norman Rockwell paintings, right? He must have been thinking about your town. I think you said there's 650 population total.
Yep.
It's a farming community, like I mentioned, in West Central Illinois. You're near Peoria. You're probably not quite halfway between Peoria and Davenport, Iowa, right?
Right.
Probably closer to Peoria.
We're in the middle of everywhere, really, Ryan. I mean, that's how we refer to ourselves, which means we're close to nowhere.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we were talking earlier. I mean, again, when you think middle America, Williamsfield, Illinois, if you could paint a picture, would probably be a leading candidate. You were mentioning where people, leave their bikes unlocked and maybe their front door is still unlocked. And
hey, let's don't broadcast that too far.
Hey, let's people are going to be like, we're going to go down to Williamsfield and we're going to, no. Well,
pick up some bikes.
No, absolutely not. No, but you know what I mean. You have those hometown values, middle America, and lo and behold, you guys find yourselves at the center, or part of the center, anyways, of this whole electric school bus discussion. You actually founded the Bus to Grid project. And I understand it's basically a co-op or a consortium of about 20 different school districts in your neck of the woods, all, I would imagine, pretty rural, and you guys are getting electric school buses. So tell me, how did this come to pass?
Well, I'll be as succinct as I can. Electrification has been something that has been interesting since the Volkswagen settlement money first became available in Illinois. And really, Susan Mudd, up in the Chicago area, was instrumental in my thinking, at least, in the thinking of a lot of ours in this area to begin with. But so we started to price, this has been maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we started to price out a transition to electric. The technology was still new and the price was still extremely high. So we began looking for funding. That led us to, again, communicated to us through Susan, an opportunity to secure funds for electric school buses from the Edwards Settlement Fund, which was a settlement fund that was created based upon some violations at a longtime polluting coal-fired power plant. And really the power plant that historically has provided our community with most of our electricity. In doing the research and preparing that grant application, that's where we really discovered the concept of vehicle to grid. We were in the process of simultaneously installing solar on site. Our students, and this has been as long as 8 years ago, designed a community microgrid utilizing various energy production and storage sources. So things just started to click and ideas started to take shape. Reached out to some of our other neighboring school districts that were close to the Edwards power plant and formed the Bus to Grid initiative, and we applied for funds. We didn't get funding here for our school district, but we got funding for a bus that's traveling around Pekin, Illinois right now. It's an electric Bluebird. I believe it's a 2018, and an electric Bluebird at Hollis Consolidated School District. So that's kind of where the Bus to Grid concept first came to fruition. And since we've helped other school districts throughout the state of Illinois apply for and receive funding for electric school buses.
Okay, great. So you mentioned Susan Mudd, so she's with the Environmental Law Policy Center in Chicago, and so we've worked with her a lot. And some of you may have read about her in our magazine or on the website, or saw her at our STN Expo Indianapolis conference. But like you mentioned, so Pekin, like you just mentioned, that's part of this Bus to Grid consortium or co-op. They were one of the first V2G ready school buses anyways. Yep. I want to talk a little bit about V2G because I know there's only been a couple projects kind of to varying degrees of success. Maybe not really maybe not even really successful really at this point. I think there's a lot there to still be figured out with the utilities. So I'm kind of curious where you guys stand with the V2G within this Bus to Grid project.
No, we're ready. We're trying to position ourselves here at Williamsfield and all of the Bus to Grid members to be able to take advantage of vehicle to grid revenue opportunities when they become mature. But more than that, we've kind of primarily adopted more of a microgrid approach because that's utility independent, right? So we were fortunate here at Williamsfield. We got electric school bus rebate funding, back in October. We'll have a fully electrified fleet with one diesel on hand for longer trips and emergency use come August 1st. We're a small district, so our fleet consists of 9 school buses. We'll have one diesel. We're getting a repowered bus from MTE and C Electric sometime here in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll have 7 new Line Electric buses that so far we anticipate them arriving prior to August 1st. So what we're trying to establish, we've already got one solar array on site. We're expanding solar to fit our additional needs for electricity once we switch from diesel to electric. And we're doing so in a way that includes stationary storage that will allow our solar array to island in times when the grid is down. So really establishing a true microgrid here on campus that will include solar energy production from ground mount and roof mount solar arrays, stationary storage, and then deploy the vehicle to grid charging stations so that the energy stored in our bus batteries become a component of that microgrid. The primary purpose of that microgrid is to ensure that our buses can still travel when the grid is down and that our building will stay electrified when the grid is down. The secondary purpose of that microgrid is as the vehicle to grid revenue opportunities expand, and I'm fully convinced that they will as the market matures, our district and other Bus to Grid districts will be positioned to supplement the electricity provided to the local community and be compensated fairly to do so.
Oh, wow, that's great. So I'm curious, within this consortium, are we talking about like multiple utilities or even like some of those co-op utilities because it's more rural? What does that look like, your relationship with the utility?
Yeah, we've had Ameren, Illinois and ComEd are the 2 major utilities that serve the citizens of Illinois. They've been great to work with. We've been on regular calls and conversations with both of their teams over the course of the last several years. The co-ops in munis, which a lot of the residents of Illinois live in those territories. A lot of our public school districts are contained within those territories. Those conversations have begun. We have residents of our school district that live within the Corn Belt Energy Co-op. Their headquarters are in Bloomington Normal. We've had conversations with them. They've been very open to ideas, that we've communicated. But that market, I'm confident, is beginning to open and mature as well, as mutual benefits are recognized. We really feel like if we do this in the right way, if school districts add solar on site and have the ability to store that energy, in particular in the summertime, the co-ops are going to benefit due to the fact that they're not going to have to pipe in as much electricity. Some of it will be generated and stored within their co-op, which there have been studies out there that have projected that this will save ratepayers in the co-op money over time.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've long thought and said that, what better place to generate battery electric from solar than this large roof on these school buses all over the place.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, do you remember the dynamic duo Batman and Robin from the old 60s show Bang Boom Pow, right? Well, there's a new dynamic duo on the scene. That's TransFinder's RouteFinder Plus and Wayfinder. RouteFinder Plus is TransFinder's award-winning industry-leading routing solution, and Wayfinder is the driver app that is changing the way drivers and subs approach their routes. Together, this pair provides the winning combination to help combat your school transportation woes, including driver shortage, inefficiencies, student discipline issues, while helping you improve the driver experience. RouteFinder Plus is intuitive, browser-based, and includes route optimization to help you build the most efficient routes possible. Wayfinder, the driver app, provides turn-by-turn instructions and allows users to take attendance and work seamlessly with Plus. You guys can learn more about this dynamic duo by emailing getplus@transfinder.com or giving them a call at 800-373-3609.
Now, I'm curious. Obviously, we're talking your school district is very small. Give our audience an idea of your service area. How many square miles? How far outside of that normal home to school are you guys going? Because you're in, I would imagine your field trips and your extracurricular, your sports activity trips can take you quite a long distance.
Yeah, what we found out through this. So first, Norman Rockwell painting is a good explanation. Also, we're just like any rural community. We're sometimes Norman Rockwell. We're sometimes Hatfield McCoys. And that's pretty much the nature of, I think, rural America on a real day-to-day basis. From a mileage standpoint, we are smaller in size than some rural school districts in our area, and I know across the nation. Because of our size, our longest daily route is approximately 40 miles. Because of the number of kids that we serve, and we're one building pre-K through 12, our buses only run one morning route and one afternoon route. We know, a lot of our friends and partner school districts, the buses will run more than one route in the morning, more than one route at night, and then might run activities during the day. Ours, by and large, we have no hesitation in planning for that 40-mile trip in the morning with an electric school bus, no matter what the temperature is or weather is, and that 40-mile return route in the afternoon. The planning for the extra trips and the extracurricular activities is something that is going to have to take a little bit more brain work than what we're used to, right? Yeah. And I think we've all, anyone who has an electric vehicle knows the transition from just thoughtfully hopping in your car and just going down the road, and then every now and then checking the fuel gauge and saying, oh, I need to stop and get gas. That's not the reality with electric right now. You have to be more thoughtful in your planning if it's not a normal part of your daily or weekly routine. And that will be true with us as we electrify. The farthest we go within our conference sports-related trips is 50 miles one way. So that's a 100-mile trip. So we would have to be very strategic and very calculated in using an electric school bus and when we do so on those trips. For those reasons, we are keeping that one diesel to use for longer trips and as needed. The cool, I think, from a superintendent standpoint, the financial benefits to the operation, I think sometimes are underemphasized. So because we have solar on site, we've been able to lock into a low price per kilowatt hour of electricity. So just to ballpark, and I've got much more precise numbers if folks need it, but it takes us about $8,000 to fuel a diesel school bus every year. It's going to take us about $800 to fuel an electric school bus. So from a cost standpoint, as far as the operation goes, we're going to save a lot of money by making this transition.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds fantastic. So I was going to say, that's obviously why you and a lot of people are keeping their diesel buses. So I'm curious, a couple things. So first of all, It sounds like at least for your normal routes, you're kind of in town driving, you might not need a charge during the middle of the day. Or maybe you are, and again, with these microgrids, I'm kind of curious, what are you guys doing in terms of charging? Are you going to go with the DC fast charge, which we know if in a normal kind of situation, that can really have some high demand charges and folks don't necessarily know what they're getting into until they see that first energy bill. You guys are going to that more sustainable model. Maybe that's different. Or are you going to the AC charger? What are you looking to use? And what are your other partners in this bus to grid looking to do?
Yeah, I think we're all looking at the hybrid model, just from a cost and, electrical infrastructure standpoint. So for us, we've got our chargers to support these electric buses. We've already got them on site. They're not installed, but they're on site. We were able to, with the rebate money that we were able to secure through EPA, we were able to afford 4 60 kilowatt Nuvve DC fast chargers. And that's a Rhombus Energy Solution V2G DC fast charger. So we'll have 4 DC fast chargers plugged into our buses nonstop. The rest of them will be AC level 2 Nuvve chargers that are like 19.3 kilowatt, I believe is what those chargers supply. In conjunction with those charge stations, 3 of them will be available for public or neighboring school district use. So our first level 2 Nuvve charge station went live 2 weeks ago, and we borrowed Pekin's bus. We had the chairman of the Board of Education here in Illinois was on site in the area for a visit, so we were traveling around and testing out showing him the technology of Pekin, the Bluebird electric school bus and the charge station and so on and so forth. So that's the approach that we're taking, is the hybrid model where we've got some DC fast chargers and some level 2 chargers. In most scenarios, that's the approach that I would recommend.
Okay.
If you have a throttle, and the funding to support more higher ratio of DC fast chargers, full steam ahead. What we found was that sweet spot with regards to funding and not having to spend too much money for electrical upgrades to our entire system. 4 60 kilowatt DC fast chargers was the sweet spot. Now, I do want to mention something I'm getting really excited about. Is I know other folks do it too, but I'm most familiar with Rhombus Energy Solutions and their V2G DC fast chargers. Are these power control stations that have multiple dispensers on them? Uh-huh. That technology, as that advances, is really exciting to me, and I think that's something that school districts will be able to take advantage of, so that more of their school buses are connected to a V2G DC fast charger.
I was going to ask you about that because obviously you have a fleet of 9 buses, so you're just not like a huge, if you already have 4 DCs. I was thinking though, okay, because I know that a lot of these you're able to charge 2 buses or sometimes 4, depending on the configuration. So
that's how I see us expanding, Ryan. I see our evolution going to, rather than adding more DC fast chargers, is adding dispensers to our units.
Yeah.
So as funding allows, we're able to connect every electric bus to a V2G DC fast charger with the knowledge that they're not all charging simultaneously,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So, and obviously, a lot of, maybe not so much your issue, but a lot of districts, they don't have copious amounts of land to just go, okay, let's build another facility.
Right.
Let's build another parking lot. Because that's something you have to look at is how you park the buses, how you used to do it. Might not work anymore, when you have the new chargers in there. So I also want to ask you about cold weather. Obviously, in the middle of Illinois in the winter, and we're still in winter, technically. It's pretty cold. Kind of curious your thoughts, experiences, maybe what you're seeing from like cities like Pekin that have the bus on the road, what they're seeing in terms of how these buses are operating in the cold weather, how it affects the range, and kind of your thoughts on a lot of folks are still using the fuel-fired heaters because they have to, because you just cannot use auxiliary heat from the electric bus without drastically drawing down your range.
So we ordered a combination from Lion. Some of our electric school buses will come with air conditioning. The ones with air conditioning also have electric heat. I mean, that's just the standard approach that Lion utilizes. And then we'll have some of our electric buses will have the diesel-fueled convection heat for the cabin. Those will typically be the ones in the winter that we run the longer routes with. So that we have additional range. Interestingly, I've kind of followed the Thomas Electric school bus story from Alaska. And what I'm most interested in is when the temperature gets to a certain level, how many kilowatt hours of electricity is used per mile when you're running your heater. And that's what we're going to, that's the sweet spot we're going to work to find when we deploy our buses in the winter here. Again, I'm fully confident in our ability to run our morning routes, charge as needed during the day, and run our afternoon routes. Time will tell what school buses will be able to travel to what neighboring towns for sports-related activities in what type of weather.
Yeah.
As far as the performance of the machine, every indication I'm getting is the performance of the machine is good regardless of winter temperature. It's just the range considerations that will have to be, that's something that we haven't had to think through for decades.
Absolutely. And you were telling me earlier, so you have a transportation director who is also, because it's such a small district, wearing a lot of hats. He's also the mechanic and he drives a route. So that's got to probably be a relief to him a little bit, because on one hand, where we're seeing some, if a district has a staff of technicians, of course, they're short, just like drivers, but there's some anxiety there about, well, what are we going to be out of a job? Because we're hearing like, oh, well, you go from thousands of parts to 7 or whatever it is with electric buses. There's not going to be nothing for us to do. But in this case, your transportation director is probably like, wow, this could actually free me up.
Yeah, it could take some stuff off his plate.
Yeah. So it's funny you mentioned Alaska. So that was a great segue for it. So for next week, everyone stay tuned, because we're going to have Gerald Stretch Blackard, who operates that route. He owns Talk Transportation up there in Alaska. So yeah, that's a great story. So that's perfect segue. You didn't know that we had Stretch on next week. So Tim, you need to check in with the podcast next week so you can hear our conversation with Stretch.
Oh, I definitely will. Yeah. I stream it when I drive.
Awesome. Yeah. You're how long is your commute?
Oh, my commute. I ride my bike back and forth to school.
Oh, there you go. Maybe not in the winter though. You're riding the bike.
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes I do.
All right. So before we go, I do want to touch a little bit more on repowers, because readers of School Transportation News will see an article in this month's issue on repowers, and Tim was a co-writer with Allison Wiley on that piece. So tell us a little bit more about the repowers. I know you said that you are receiving one. Yeah. Obviously, the initial purchase price is half that, or more comparable really to what we're seeing with diesel or gasoline or even propane.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, shout out to Allison Wiley on that. She does an amazing job and did a great amount of research for that article. The math that we did prior to the purchase of the repower, again, going back to the prices of what we're able to lock into for electricity due to our solar array, And the knowledge that, our diesel contracts run 12 months. And historically, this is my 10th year at Williamsfield, on average, they've increased 8% every year. This last diesel contract went up 21%. So when you factor in real math from our school district, over a 10-year total cost of ownership, if we were just to own and operate this repowered bus for 10 years, we're going to save approximately $30,000. And I really think that's conservative. So when you get to that price parity with diesel, it becomes a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned, because the health benefits and the environmental benefits are real. My approach, as I've been studying it just for the last several years, is just affordability, is being able to afford to, at what point are the benefits outweighing any potential additional cost. That's the way my thinking was working. And in this scenario, the repower scenario, where MTE refers to them as totally transformed buses, it's actually cheaper. So how do you not make the transition is what I was asking myself in our scenario. How do we not pull the trigger on that when we know the total cost of ownership is cheaper, and it comes with health benefits for our students and staff, and reduce our carbon footprint and the other emissions that come along with diesel.
And I think that some of the concern I've heard about from that is, number one, are they under warranty? And yes, some are coming from the factory now. So Bluebird is working on its own that's repowering gasoline and propane.
Yeah.
But then the others, because there's it seems to be a growing number of companies every day as the people are getting into electric and also repowers. We're learning more every day, but they're warranting their own systems. But it's not only removing all of that internal combustion engine drivetrain and everything and putting electric in there, but it's basically taking, yes, the body might be old, but everything from paint to seats to the technology, stop arms, LEDs, I mean, the kind of the whole kit and caboodle. So it might be technically, a 10-year-old bus body, but everything with it is like almost brand new.
Right. Yeah. I'm excited about the approach MTE is taking. I've been able to ride and drive the demo bus that they've had on the road for the last couple of years. And I mean, the proof will be in the pudding, but everything that I've seen and researched indicates that, this is going to have a significant impact on the acceleration of electrification of school buses, I believe.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, it's been illuminating. Really pleased to have you on, and thank you for coming on board. If you want to learn more about Tim's Bus to Grid project, go online. It's really easy. bus2grid.org. That's BUS, the number 2, grid.org. You can learn all about it, and we'll certainly be staying in touch, Tim, and looking forward to maybe getting you out to a conference soon. And of course, want to know the latest and greatest with regards to what you are doing there in Williamsfield and what your partners are doing with electric school buses.
We appreciate it. I look forward to listening to the Alaska story as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Stretch is a fun guy. So we'll talk a little Alaska, really cold weather next week. So Thanks again, Tim. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
All right, guys, before we go, reminder, register for STN Expo. We have it in the summer. It's coming up June 2nd through the 6th in Indianapolis. We have Reno celebrating our 30th anniversary. STN Expo Reno was founded in 1993. It is July 14th through the 19th. We've got that super early bird rate. You guys got to lock it in before April 14th. It is coming up real soon. You save $200 on your registration. Guys, stnexpo.com. Find out all that information. Want to send out a special thank you to our episode sponsors this week, TransFinder, ICBus, and the Propane Education Research Council. Thanks, guys, for being a part of the podcast this episode. Guys, go online, stnonline.com. Check out all the latest and greatest stories happening in the industry. Read that brand new March issue. So much good content in there. Soak it up. Share it with your friends. Get this podcast. Subscribe to it. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to pods. Nation, we love you. We'll see you next week.